For nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom. And there shall be earthquakes in divers places, and there shall be famines and troubles. These are the beginnings of sorrows. It is quite certain the first part of this particular Bible verse is coming to fruition, as there is so much unrest around the world today, especially in the Middle East, where fighting has been going on for decades.
If you want to understand what's really going on in the Middle East, you need to look at the forces that are at play behind the scenes. One of the ways of looking at the Middle East is to think of it as a giant chessboard where pieces are constantly maneuvering around. So, who are the losers in all of this and who are the winners? Iran has a huge interest in what's going on in the Arab parts of the Middle East. Iran, of course, is not an Arab country, but it's got a very close ally in Lebanon in the form of Hezbollah, and also in the Syrian government of President Bashar al-Assad. Iran came to his aid and helped reverse the imminent defeat that he could well have suffered at the hands of the rebels. A lot of the ground that the rebels had taken, they were then beaten back out of by Russian airstrikes, backed by military manpower on the ground, Hezbollah and other Shia forces, often under Iranian command, but working in concert with the Syrians. I think it's too early to say that Syria's President Bashar al-Assad is a winner. He hasn't lost. Iran now has a huge hand in the business, the internal politics and the security apparatuses of Iraq, Syria and Lebanon. And that has essentially given it a corridor of influence all the way from the Afghan border in the east to the Mediterranean in the west. And that's something that is rattling Saudi Arabia and the Sunni Arab Gulf states to the south. So in all these power struggles and conflicts that are going on in the Middle East, who's losing out? Well, strategically, the Saudis. They may not want to admit it, but they have not come out well out of this big power struggle with Iran. The proxy militias that they have supported in Syria have not done well. They're on the back foot. ISIS, so-called Islamic State, is also a loser. It's lost its caliphate. They made a strategic mistake in 2014 by overreaching themselves. One of the really unfair things about big powers in the Middle East, whether they're Western powers or whether they are regional superpowers like Iran and Saudi Arabia, fighting these proxy wars, is that the losers are not those states themselves, it's the people caught up in the middle. And the most glaring example of this is Yemen. Iran's role in Yemen is limited, but they have been supplying weapons, they have been supplying ideological, doctrinal education to the rebels there, and the Saudi-led coalition has responded with a devastating air campaign plus a blockade of ports. And so it's the Yemeni people who are suffering there. In Syria, as other countries get involved, Turkey, Iran, Russia, the US, in Syria, it's the local people who've suffered. That country has been torn apart. And Iraq, likewise, it's always the civilians who suffer.
Then there is the North Korean conflict that is worrying many leaders around the world. That Kim Jong-un is threatening to push the nuclear button has many dignitaries scrambling to find a peaceful solution. And ISIS is one of the most dominant renegade factions in the world today, killing anyone who gets in their way, including women and children. Even countries such as America, France, and Argentina are trying to find solutions to the civil unrest that is uprising in their nations.
The looting and rioting started in the central Argentine city of Cordoba and spread to towns and cities across the country. Several people have died and many more have been injured as shops and supermarkets are ransacked. Several provincial police forces have been asking for higher wages. Some have gone on strike, providing the very conditions for the looters to act unhindered.
We never got a reply at any moment. We always ask for dialogue, and unfortunately yesterday we had an outcome we did not want.
The authorities in some provinces, the largest Buenos Aires, Córdoba, La Rioja and San Juan among them, have reached some kind of agreement with the protesting police forces. Others, Chaco, Corrientes, Santa Fe and Mendoza.
The Christian Bible states that during the end times there will be much turmoil in the world, and the earth will be a testament to the events in the form of Mother Nature herself. We have wildfires spreading their destruction, earthquakes rumbling all around the globe, unprecedented hurricanes tearing up coastal cities, and volcanoes that had lain dormant for hundreds of years coming to life. The prophets of the Old Testament were quite precise when talking about earthquakes during the end times. The Roman Catholic priest Padre Pio, who was born Francesco Forgione, was also quoted as stating that during the end times the seasons would not know one another. You will know when the time is approaching, because the seasons will change, so the only way you will know the seasons is by the leaves on the trees. Padre Pio. This quote comes from a translation of a copy of a personal letter written by Padre Pio and addressed to the Commission of Heroldsbach, appointed by the Vatican, that testifies to the truth and reality of these revelations on the 3 days of darkness given by the Lord Creator to Padre Pio, a Capuchin priest who bore the stigmata. Nation will rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom. There will be famines and earthquakes in various places. All these are the beginning of birth pains. In the last decade alone, famine has become a major concern around the globe like has never been seen before.
According to an assessment that was done in January this year, there are around 4.9 million people that are in need of food assistance. So generally in South Sudan, people are having 3 meals per day, but due to the food insecurity, people are having 1 meal per day. And also the little available food is given to children, the sick, and also the elderly. So there are some people who go without food for quite a period of time. The most vulnerable group are children below 5 years of age, as well as nursing mothers. The reason why children below 5 years of age are considered to be most at risk is, number one, based on the fact that they entirely depend on somebody else to provide food for them. So they cannot be able to make independent decisions, and they are not in a position to be able to fend for themselves. The second reason is because children below 5 years, if they have any negative impact as a result of poor nutrition and food security, this manifests in their adult life and it has permanent implications. For example, you have disabilities, you have children with poor intellectual capabilities, and this is something that is not reversible. MEDA is using 2 approaches to respond to the high malnutrition rates in the country. The first one is through our emergency response team, where MEDA quickly deploys the team to go to places to be able to support the partners to address the high scale of need. The second way MEDA is doing this is through integrating nutrition services in the health facilities, so that beneficiaries coming to the health facilities are able to get a holistic package of health and nutrition.
According to a United Nations report conducted in 2017, there are over 20 million people suffering from famine, including an estimated 1.4 million children. While famine is being experienced in a number of nations around the world, the major countries that are being affected are northern Nigeria, Somalia, Yemen, and South Sudan. Sadly, these famines are not being caused by natural disasters like crop failure or droughts, but rather are man-made, which is the direct result of bloody wars and insurgencies that are raging in these countries today. Among Holy Scripture, one of the most controversial and debated prophetic subjects is Matthew 24, which is also referred to as the Olivet Discourse. The debate primarily revolves around the timing of the fulfillment of the prophecy. There are some scholars of religion that maintains the prophecies in the apocalypse have already been fulfilled during the events that surrounded the destruction of Jerusalem in 70 AD. Other theologians disagree and believe that Jesus was speaking about the end times, which was to happen in mankind's future, not during the dawning of a new epoch, which means the changing from the BC era to the AD era. Then there are yet other biblical commentators that see some portions of the prophecy as having been fulfilled in 70 AD, and other sections referring to the end times that are to occur in the future. C.A. Carson, a biblical scholar, outlines the passage as follows: general prophetic warnings for all history, prophecy concerning the events of 70 AD, prophecy concerning the second coming, prophecy concerning the Great Tribulation, and the timing here is unclear. Most scholars and theologians of religion find Carson's outline of the passage both confusing and confused, arguing Jesus meant the passage to be more literal than subjective.
The earth, the world, is facing a very bleak future. There's going to be a time of great tribulation come upon this earth, such as the earth has never seen before or will ever see again. In all of history, there has never been a time of such desolation and devastation, death and destruction as is to come upon the earth in the future. The Bible speaks a lot about these days of God's cataclysmic judgment that are coming.
Yet this is what prophecy is made of, a race to unravel an understanding of the Creator's meaning of prophetic words.